Hodl the Bitcoin.
So I had a topic that I've had an interesting little, I guess, progression in thought this week. And it's around this current push for everybody to think in Satoshis when they're thinking of Bitcoin instead of bits or millibits or full Bitcoin, Satoshis. And part of this came from, I like using Samourai wallet on Android. I really love that wallet. And just this week, they got rid of all fiat conversions on their platform.
I read about that.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so now all you can
see, I think.
And that was my thought. And so all of a sudden, it's just either full Bitcoin or Satoshis. That's all you can see. Those are your only options. And I was like, this is my favorite wallet. And now I don't know if it's usable. But my thinking has changed over the course of the week because the more I think about it, their argument was you always have to go to an external source to agree upon a price, because a lot of the time you'll be sending somebody Bitcoin and they're using a different wallet, and that wallet uses a different source for the price. And there's this weird misunderstanding in between saying, oh, I got $1 less or $10 less, depending on how much you're sending. And people start looking at their wallets in terms of dollars instead of the actual units that are being used, which is Bitcoin as a separate currency. There's always this peg that is trying to be maintained. And so when you look at it like that and people start really looking at, I have this much Bitcoin instead of my Bitcoin is worth this much, I think it changes the dynamic and the thinking in people's heads. And it's a bit of a pain to have to check the price before you send to somebody if it's not just a merchant. But I think it's actually a move in the right direction. I'm actually really starting to like the idea. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Like I heard Blood saying, no, too early. So I don't know. I'll go to you first.
Hell, it's early for me, man. Like, I mean, I've been in it for a while and I still don't, feel comfortable just converting or knowing, the value of a Bitcoin. I remember back years ago, Andreas Antonopoulos always talked about how at some point, Bitcoin will be so big, we'll be converting or looking at Bitcoin in millibits. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
I think once Bitcoin gets a little bit bigger in value and more people use it, I think it's a good move. But right now, maybe a little like that wallet may just strictly be for advanced users like you, Ben. So it won't be for the masses. That's for sure. They're not going to be ready for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll jump in here, and just so you guys know, if you guys see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone where the chat is. So
yeah, likewise. That's what I was gonna say. If you see me looking over,
So don't think I'm ignoring it. But I agree with Crypto Blood here for sure. I think it's too early. I think one of the ways you can really tell the difference between someone who's been in crypto for a minute and someone who is new is whether they talk in dollars or they talk in Satoshis. Because a lot of your advanced traders and your people who've been in it for a while, they're going to talk Satoshis. Like I remember when I made that transition, but the problem is new people to the space aren't going to be able to understand that at all. They're only going to, why do people come into the space? For investment reasons, for money, exactly. That's the entry point. Of course, then you get in, a lot of us could fall down the rabbit hole and then it turns into a much, much bigger deal. But, I think that that's really going to turn off new users to that wallet. I think there's a place for it. But another thing is, what's the decimals? Is it 10 million total? Like it goes to 10 millionth place? Is that right?
So
eight, right?
Eight decimal places.
Yeah.
And then there's 100 million Satoshis in a Bitcoin.
Right.
100 million? Okay, right. So it's so hard to keep up with the value of your different projects because they're so wide ranging. Like you look at something like Holochain that's at like 16 Satoshis, and then you look at something like, Ethereum, which is at, I don't even know how many Satoshis, I think around 0.03 or something like that, which would be like 3 million Satoshis, whatever it is. It's just so crazy trying to do that math on the fly, even for people who are far advanced. So I think it is a little bit too early, but I do think there is a good aspect about changing the
maybe in China, where their math proficiency is much higher than America.
Well, actually, you know what's the
that ain't
perfect
gonna work here?
I was tweeting about this. The perfect conversion right now is Indonesia, because $1 is about 15,000 rupiah in Indonesia, and $1 is about 15,000 Satoshis. So that's not a bad. And I spent some time in Bali last couple years ago, and so I'm used to that conversion already. And so now I'm like, oh, I can actually start to make that comparison. Although with the changing price of Bitcoin, it's difficult. So yeah.
So to chime in on my thoughts on that, I'm kind of with you, Ben, a little bit. Like, I think that it is a step in the right direction for shifting the mentality, but I'm also with the guys on this side of the screen as well, in that it might just be too early, right? Like, I've been using Ledger Live. I don't know if you guys have if you use a Ledger, but the new Ledger Live app is actually pretty slick. And one of my favorite parts about it is, we have a bunch of team members across the world that I'm paying with cryptocurrency. And my favorite part about it is I know what their dollar rate we've agreed on is, and I can just punch that in and it automatically does the calculation for how much ETH or Bitcoin to send, which for now is all right. But I do long for the day when we care about a Satoshi as a Satoshi and the dollar value is irrelevant. How long that's going to be, I don't know.
Yeah, how long? Let's talk about that. How long do you think it'll be till we get to that point, crypto?
I think realistically, at least another 10 years, right? I mean, because consider this, right? Not everybody, if you think about the whole world, right? Like, you can spend your dollars pretty much anywhere. You're not going to always get the best conversion rate, but if you're in China and you have dollars, chances are probably they'll take it. I can tell you for sure, if you're in Mexico and you have dollars and not pesos, they'll take it, because I was just there like 2 weeks ago and I did not have any pesos. I had dollars and they'd pull out their calculator and do the conversion. So that's the way that it stands, is like, I guess the US dollar is sort of a base currency for a lot of other fiat currencies. But I don't know how long it's going to take to shift until it's not only that the USD is a base currency, but also Satoshis are a base currency. Because again, it's really going to come down to how many people have adopted this technology and are actually utilizing it for what its intended purpose is, as opposed to just the speculative investment, right? Like, people need to actually use this stuff as a form of currency. And I think, it's going to take a larger percentage of the world's population than 1% to be actively buying and holding this stuff, before we see people starting to value things in Satoshi value.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Do you guys enjoy my content? If so, there's 2 easy things that you can do to make sure you always know when stuff comes out. Number 1, of course, hit that subscribe button. Number 2, hit that little bell icon right next to the subscribe button so that you make sure you turn on notifications every time I put out new content. Now, onto the video. So to tag on to that then, so we're pretty much, all of us here, I imagine, in agreement that the majority of people in cryptocurrency right now, other than some far use cases that are outside of this bubble, are here for investment purposes. Is that pretty unanimous?
Yeah. We're all speculating on this because we saw
speculation.
Money, and we were like, oh, that's cool. Hopefully, I'm guessing you guys are probably in the same boat as me, but you made some money and were like, I need to learn about this, and started looking into underlying technology, and we're like, oh, this really can change things for the better. Will it? I don't know. I hope so. That's what I'm here for.
So since people are diving into this for an investment in an investment mind frame, do you think that having people looking at Satoshis versus the dollar value, do you think that has a bit of a play on your brain as far as preventing people from using it as a currency? So like, if I see something and I'm like, I want to buy something for $10, and then I go, oh, I'm going to buy something for 150,000 Satoshis. I'm now like, do I want to lose that many Satoshis on this sandwich?
Right.
Big problem.
That's exactly the problem with cryptocurrency in general as it stands now, is that dude. I mean, how many times have we heard the story about the guy that paid 14,000 Bitcoin for 2 large pizzas, right? Everybody knows that story.
Laszlo.
Yeah, and like awesome, he was using it for a currency. But do you think that the day he saw it hit 20 grand, that he was happy with his pizza purchase?
I think he ended up pretty rich anyways, though. But yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, we all have that where we look back a few years and I'm like, oh God, I spent $2,000 at Starbucks.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and so that's what for me. It's like, and me and Cryptosomniac, we've had this discussion when we were out in San Fran. Man, it's just like, I don't think that Bitcoin is really going to be used as a currency in that manner if it's going to be truly a deflationary type of currency, because it's always going to be increasing in value over time. So especially when we have the next halving, you know, it's always going to be increasing in rarity and value. So I'm not going to spend my Bitcoin. You know, I'd rather spend something else that's either closer to being inflationary or inflationary.
Yeah, I think that's the catch-22 right there. You know,
Yeah.
that's the catch-22, which is we want the price to go up. How is the price going to go up? Well, when more people know about it, more people get interested, more people come into the space. And, you know, then at the same time, we don't want to spend any of it. We want to hold it. And so how are we going to be able to like be transacting value with other people with this currency to get them to know about it if all we're doing is hodling? That's why one thing I suggest to you know, my viewers is have kind of two accounts. You know, have your one account that it's your investment, and then have another where if there's anything that you can buy, you know, with crypto, whether it, you know, be like some kind of monthly subscription you're using online, whatever it might be, take your fiat, put it in a separate account for, you know, for Bitcoin or whatever. And that's your spending account. And that's how we can kind of, you know, knock down, you know, two birds with one stone.
So you're saying essentially, you know, buy with Bitcoin and replace, you know, fiat with Bitcoin every time with that account. Yeah,
I mean, I mean, obviously it's very limited. I mean, because the whole other part of this discussion is like, where can we really spend it at right now? You know, I know Monarch token has got a cool little aspect to it when it, you know,
the merchant plugin is live now. It exists.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
No. So and again, this is just, that's another vector to help people start to be able to use it, right? That's ultimately really the thing is merchants aren't going to accept this until the volatility settles down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally, unless they are also willing to speculate, right? They're cash flush enough that they're like, yeah, like Square is a perfect example. Square has made enough money that they're just like, you know what? We've got enough liquidity pool. We're going to allow people to buy and sell Bitcoin directly from our app. They're not an exchange,
and
but they're
many of the merchants out there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, many of the merchants, like I know with Coinbase earlier, you know, you could set it up where when you received a payment, it immediately swapped to US dollar or whatever local currency. So
Monarch will have that same
thing.
So like you don't even have to actually accept crypto payments. You can just be like, yeah, we'll use this Monarch plugin and I will let everybody else pay with crypto and I'm going to get fiat on the back end. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting stuff.
I think my goal is the opposite, where I'll spend fiat until nobody will take it anymore and I have to spend my Bitcoin.
I think your strategy was pretty solid, right? Because honestly, if you are, I mean, that was really how I did a lot of last year. Was basically when Coinbase was still allowing credit card purchases, I would go buy every time I saw a low entry. I would go buy some Bitcoin, and then I would just immediately go over to my banking app and pay off the credit card, right? So I could still transact on it right away, and then I was also getting the cashback points in the back end. So I thought I was pretty clever, But yeah, I mean, basically it was just, I would just buy more. So that's the reason I'm saying that's a good strategy, is because it sort of helps you dollar cost average over time as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pretty much our consensus in this is that we love the idea of eventually people valuing in Satoshis, but it's going to take some time, and Samourai may or may not have jumped on that early, maybe.
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff coming out too early to market lately. Like
Right.
there's a lot of really great ideas for crypto and blockchain projects that I've seen, but they're just too soon because they're, I'm trying not to call out any names of projects, but there's ones that are a really nice crypto alternative to existing platforms that people are using, but because people are still scared of the volatility and don't understand, the value of decentralizing your data and things like that, they're just not ready for it yet. So, they're not going to buy into a system to then be subject to the volatility. And so I just see a lot of projects that are like, this is a great idea, but you're too soon to market.